Hello, welcome to my channel if you are new. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Today we are going to make some toadstool embellishments. So I'm going to be using something that I've had hanging around for a really long time. And I've got these little frames with the little file folder bit. Now I think I was sent these from Kerry from Which Craft Do You Do, and I've also got some of my flashcards. They're a digital, just rounded the corners, so I'm going to try and use up some of these, and it might be that we have multiple of the same thing that will look slightly different. What I'm using along with these are the new Mycology Specimens, and I've also got some labels from my new specimen kit. So lots of digitals today, but you don't have to use digitals. There are lots of ways to do things like this. Obviously these are not digitals, these are cut from Tim Holtz papers. So the first thing I want to do is I was just having a little look at those. So we need to do a little bit of inking. So what I'm going to try and do is sort of mass ink these, because I don't want to be, let's go for ground espresso. So I'm just sort of, so what I'm going to do is put them like that so they're flat, and then just slightly lean them like you were shuffling a deck of cards. And I'm going to try, oh, that's really dark. Okay, let's soften that a little bit with the brush. And now I'm going to have to carry on. Now we've started this, I don't know how. I'm going to try and be a little bit gentler this time. I think this because I've literally within the last hour or so re-inked this. So I think it's this one I've re-inked. Or is it walnut stain? Oh, I hope I put the right re-inker in the right ink. Oh, it's brown, isn't it? It's brown. And last side. Let's see how this works. Right, so I'm just going to use the brush to soften these a little bit. I think gone a little bit heavy on some of those. Right, that will do. I'm not going to use that this time. Let's grab the walnut stain. Yeah, I didn't re-ink this one. So I'm going to ink a few of these. I'm not going to ink the inside because I don't think I'm going to have that showing, to be honest. I'm going to cover up the hole. How many shall we make? How many shall we aim for? I've got a lot of flashcards there. Probably not going to use all of those. Yeah, this one does need re-inking. There's not a lot of ink going on here. So we're still going to have some of those left. So we've got a few things that we're not using. So I've got 8 of these, 8 of these. I'm going to take these over to my box. I don't have a lot of sprays, but my all-time favourite is the antique linen. Now, this ran out. So what I did was I buy the re-inker, and I've just put 4 of those into here, and then I've just topped it with a little bit of water, and I sprayed it until I was happy with the colour. It's obviously not exactly as it would have been when this was purchased. I also like the pumice stone oxide spray, and I just seem to be drawn to these two, using them on everything at the moment. So I'm going to take these over to my box and give them a spray, and then I'll bring them back. So I laid this on the inside of my box. So I need to give these a little dry. So these are now dry. And I want to add a little bit of stamping on here now. I love this stamp here. I'm going to use that. Grab my block. Make sure I've got them the way up that I've inked them. So because this is going into the background, I'm going to use black. And it will also kind of coordinate a little bit with the text on the flashcards. So I'm going to load my stamp with ink. And now I'm going to change to potting soil. Okay, so now I'm just going to literally lay these down, and I want the little tabs, I think, to the right, and then they could always go onto a page edge. and already I think they look pretty cool. You could just use them as a little embellishment. You could glue these together and then decide at a later date what you kind of want to do with them. Now, I know I want to add paper clips and things like that. I have these teeny tiny paper clips. Now, I might not just use paper clips. I might put some stitching on them. I might add some eyelets. So I'm not going to add these yet. I have some plain labels, so they're just plain labels, nothing on them. So I'm going to find a few. I found a few. Some of them are a little bit too new looking. I don't want to do any more spraying, so I'm going to ink the edges of these. The little labels. Now, some of these have already been inked and prepared, some of them not so much, or some of them not at all. And again, it's just going to be a case of layering up. I think I want to add some smaller labels in as well to give this a really good layered look. Cool, I'm really happy with that. Now I've got some inked cheesecloth and muslin. I'm never sure what they're called exactly. This is like this is the gauze stuff. So I think what I want to do first is maybe kind of glue our little cluster of labels together. I think that's how I'm going to do this. Just kind of guesstimate roughly where my labels are going to go. And I'm just going to literally glue labels. So we've got a little cluster of labels like that. So to decorate these little clusters of labels a little bit more, I'm probably going to add a little stamp. But for now, we're just putting the little label clusters together. So I'll carry on with these and be right back. And this in itself is quite a little fun mass make, just putting together little label clusters, and then you could have some ready for projects whenever you need them. I think that's something I might actually do on the sofa one evening, because a little cluster of labels is just so much more fun, isn't it, than a single label. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to make these really, really simple embellishments. What I want to do now is cut off. I think I'm going to have some cheesecloth under each of these little label clusters. It's really, really, really warm in here, but I can't turn the fan on because obviously you can guess what would happen if I did. Just going to cut 8 pieces. I'm not worried about them being square or about them being even. Just a little bit to poke out from behind those little label clusters. This stuff is so fiddly. And we're going to go like that. Right, I think I'm going to have the cheesecloth at the top of my label on this one. And I'm going to probably tuck a toadstool behind it. So I'm gluing that down. I'm going to leave that there. So I think what I'm going to do on each one is glue the cheesecloth to the top of my little label cluster. So it hangs over the top, because that would be a nice place to kind of tuck my little toadstool element behind. So I'm going to do this to all of my little label clusters and be right back. So turned all our labels over. I do love these projects where you can work in stages and end up with quite a lot of ephemera, even if it looks the same. If you're going to put it into different journals, or if you're sending it out as happy mail or putting it into packs of ephemera, you know, it doesn't really matter if they are similar looking. Let's get out our toadstools and a toadstool ephemera. Now, I did put a little post on my Instagram, so I don't know if you can see here, they have all been inked around the edge, and they have all been inked splattered with the same colours I've used on here. So now it's a case of auditioning some toadstools. I am going to put them roughly where I want them on my little file foldery tag. Now I've got I think this is what I'm going to go for. So now it's just a case of working on one at a time to put the toadstools and the labels to the little flashcard. I do need to decide where the flashcard is going to go onto my little file folder. I think we need to just lay them out. Yeah, I like this. So we're going to start with the toadstools, gluing those to the flashcards. So this one I want peeking over the edge a little bit. Okay, so you can see on this one I've got the flashcard over the top slightly. So I'm not going to put glue along the bottom of my label cluster, just along the top. It's always difficult to glue when you've got cheesecloth on the back of something. I quite often put the cheesecloth on. I put the cheesecloth down and then I'll glue the elements over the top, because obviously the glue is going to go through that cheesecloth. I'm going to trim this slightly there. So that is our kind of flashcard cluster that's going to lay out over the top of this little file card. Now I'm going to add a little bit of glue, stitching to mine, but I have got some of these little scraps that I might add as well, just to give it even more. Yeah, I think I'm going to put that. So of course, got to give this an ink. Right, so we're going to have something like that is kind of in place. Let's put that there. And we'll do this one together, and then I will go ahead and finish the rest. This time I think I want the flashcard a little bit closer to the centre, and my toadstool, it's only going to hang over a really tiny amount. It is worth putting the elements together first, each element individually, so you can be really sure where you want things to go. I'm going to add glue again. I'm only going to add glue to the top of this. I've got some other little bits here. I think I'm going to tear that. These are quite cute, these little edging dies. What they work really well is if you want to give a little bit of texture and a little layering, you can then use that as a line to stitch down, so it looks like these two elements have been sewn together. I do like that about these, and that's going to be our second one. Put that there. Okay, so I'm going to carry on doing this same process and put the other 6 together. So you can now see how they're all going to look once we have finished gluing things down. So let me just bring these down a little bit now. So this one is a good one for us to put an eyelet in, and probably this one too. This one I think I will, this one, because I've got the paper there, I don't think I'm going to add anything. This one's got 2 toadstools. This one, I think we've got a nice space here to add a paper clip, because I do have to bear in mind I'm going to sew along the left hand side. So I'm thinking of that when I'm putting the composition together. I'm remembering where I'd like to sew when I sew these. So I'm going to add a tiny little paper clip here, and these are Tim Holtz tiny paper clips. I have no idea. I'm going to turn it around actually. I've no idea if they're still available. I've had these. I've been hoarding them for a really, really long time. Yep, I'm going to have one there. So I've got this gap here that I don't like. So I am going to put a paper clip on this one. And I'm also on this one, I'm going to add a staple to the top of that little tag. Let's have a look. I think I'm going to do that to this one as well. Actually, with this one, I'm just going to give that another little link actually. So with this one, I'm going to add the paper clip to the top. So it looks like that paper clip is holding on that toadstool tag. I'm liking that. Let's have a look. Right, I think I'm going eyelet here, eyelet here, eyelet here. There, no eyelet. I don't want a paper clip. There's quite a lot going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a staple to the label there. So giving that a little bit of interest. Let's have a look. There is going to be an eyelet on here, but I do think that's quite plain. I do think that's quite plain at the top. So I'm going to add 3 little staples along the top of that tag. Not going to go too close to the left hand side because I do want to run some stitching down there. So we've just got enough interest on here now. So we are ready to glue. Now, this is where it's going to get tricky. Glue around the aperture on this little file foldery thing, like that. And then I'm going to glue that tag there. Now, there may well still be areas that are not glued, but that's okay. Like that. Now, if we need to, we can just lift that very, very slightly, run a little bit of bead of glue in there. But that's going to hold. So that's our first one, ready for sewing. So this particular one, I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to go round, just round the aperture. And then I'm just going to glue that little piece of toadstool that I know is going to hang over the edge here. Hold that down for a second. And again, that one is now ready. Okay, I'm quite happy with those. So I was looking for this teeny tiny right. Now this is where, you know what happens, you finish something, you don't do what you wanted to do at the right time, and then it doesn't really work. I kind of want to add this blue stamp. I'm not going to do it. Decision made. I'm going to take these over to my sewing machine and run a row of stitching. Here we are, all done, kind of. Just cut these apart. Don't you absolutely love it when you just finish sewing, literally just finish, and the thread on your bobbin runs out? So thankful it didn't happen while I was sewing. Awesome. Love it when that happens. And I don't know that it's happened more than maybe twice, but it did today. So that's good. I'm really happy with that. So we are now at we are 1 hour and 7 minutes. So it's taken me 1 hour and 7 minutes to do this. Obviously I did a lot of prep beforehand, and I do want to add eyelets to some of these, and I'm going to add my tiny eyelets. Now, if you wonder where I get my eyelets from, it is here, the trim shop. The website is www.trimmingshop.co.uk, and I have these teeny tiny ones. There is a little bit of a hassle with these, so just make sure I've got the small side setting. So I'm going to put my hole in. Now, where you would use the paintbrush idea from Corey to extend the size of the hole, on these I need to use my awl because the hole is so tiny. The paintbrush is actually too big. So we're going to put one there. I'm going to put one here. One here. Oh, that's very close to the edge on that one. And I think I'm going to add one here. So just extend that hole a little bit. Set all my eyelets. We are at 1 hour and 10 minutes. So in 1 hour and 10 minutes, I've made 8, what would you call them? Little embellishments. I often get asked, what would you do with them? What would you do with them now? So let me have a look and see. Right. So I've got a couple, just pulled a couple of things out of my little stash. So this is a file folder, one of those file foldery things. So if, for example, this one would work quite nicely up there. So you could add them to file folders. This is an envelope. It's not the best size and shape to show you an example, but you could add it to the top of an envelope that goes that way. You could add it to the front of an envelope that way if you wished, and then that could tuck on the side of a journal. Or, of course, you could add it to a tag. So there are a lot of things you could use these little embellishments for. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope it didn't seem too repetitive, but it is the way I love to kind of mass make when I'm working like this. I like to work in stages, so if at any point I have to stop, everything is in the same kind of state of being done. And like I said, you don't need to have any of this. You could use cardstock that's cut into a rectangle. You could have a plain rectangle of cardstock and you could stamp onto it. You don't have to use toadstools. You could use anything. You could use stickers, you could use flowers, butterflies, any kind of cups and saucers, whatever you have in your ephemera stash. You could use stamps instead of labels. There's lots of options. This was just to give you an idea of how you can come up with a little project when you pick in advance what you'd like to use. So I hope you liked it. I'm really happy with how they came out because I had no idea when I started this exactly what they were going to look like. I just knew I was going to layer these particular elements that I had. So thanks for joining me. I will see you on Friday for part 2 of the July challenge, and take care. Bye.